Hello, everybody, and welcome to Digital Transformations, where we explore the bits and bytes to elevate your business. I'm Cara.
And I'm Andrew.
Yeah, and today we're going to dive into connecting with your customers using a classic storytelling structure. So it's story time today, everybody.
Let's get started. This is an
Let's do
exciting topic.
it. I'm super
All right.
passionate about this. Yay! Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and while Andrew's bringing that screen up, a little backstory about storytelling. So, as human beings, storytelling has been with us as humans for eons and eons. And storytelling evolved to share culture, share safety, come together as a community, that kind of thing. So bringing storytelling to the business world to share your business and what's going on is truly an ancient art, and we're going to dive into a really classic structure to do that today.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
So tell me a story.
Yeah. So we titled this, we had a little fun with this, putting this together. We're calling it Tell Me a Story, and connecting your customers using the 5 C's of storytelling. And to make this a little more easy to understand, it's not a difficult topic, but we thought it would be fun to interject the very classic tale of Little Red Riding Hood as an example of the path that we're going to follow for those 5 C's of storytelling.
Yeah. And I wanted to, introduce my thoughts today about, this is a really cool topic for me as well, because I really enjoy this concept. And, Carter's been really talking about this lately, and really how to really elevate your stories. And we've been having really deep discussions about this of how this format and teaching and sharing ideas is a really cool framework where we can um, framework specific pieces, newsletters, topics, ideas,
Mm-hmm.
podcasts,
Yeah.
things like that. So definitely, I think it's going to be pretty useful tool. So
Yeah,
do you want to introduce the 5 C's, and then we'll kind of, in order, and then we'll kind
I
of.
do. Yeah, absolutely. And that was a great point, Andrew, that this storytelling structure is really the classic hero's journey. Joseph Campbell probably was the first one to capture it on paper. But like you just said, Andrew, this storytelling structure applies to videos, blog posts, even social posts that are shorter. They can have the same kind of structure. So, really, any way that you're trying to communicate with your customers in your business, this structure can really help make that connect with people a little more deeply and give your information like a human element to it. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, and I wanted to add too that there's a lot of 5 C's in storytelling and things online, and there's
Mhm.
lots of different versions of this and
Yes.
different hybrids. But like Cara said, recent examples like Joseph Campbell and other ones, or earlier back, but also those hero journey type stories, you know, many years ago,
Hmm.
in our ancient past is all about storytelling. And
Exactly.
there's a reason why it's developed into this. And so how do we use this for business, right? And how do
Hmm.
we kind of move into that? So what's the first C there
Hmm.
you want to move into, Cara?
Exactly. It is the context. And with any kind of story, with anything, our first goal is to engage the audience. So we're going to start doing that with the context and
Okay.
introduce the hero's world. You want to talk about that, Andrew? Just what that's about?
Yeah. Like, the way I think about this is, before you get started with, as we kind of, it's good to know what's going on around you, context of maybe why this, how you might, get into the conversation, or you can envision yourself in this world or this conversation. And
Hmm.
also maybe, why are certain people doing certain things? And, a lot of times if you start with conflict or these other ones that, I definitely think, you need a little bit of backstory, and it also helps build,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe tension and
Hmm.
excitement to help you really hit the story ideas a little harder.
Right.
Some thoughts there on the context
Yeah.
there.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree completely with that, Andrew. It kind of it sets the stage. It's the backstory, and it right from that beginning, hopefully, we're like, oh, we care about the hero. What's going to happen to him or her? And so we're already kind of keyed in, and we're excited to see what happens next.
Right, and as we talk a little bit about the context of our podcast today, maybe we also can talk about the context of the story that we're using to, you know,
Hmm.
talk about that, which is Little Red Riding Hood a little bit, and that,
Exactly.
well, that's why we use this picture here of, like, in the village before it happens. You might,
Hmm.
where are they from? you know, can you relate to these people? And hearing about, what's going next. And but definitely, I think this is setting the stage, as I would say. So,
Exactly.
and I think in
Exactly.
business as well, if we want to relate this to business a little bit, one thought I have is, how do we set the stage of how we're going to introduce what, even if it's a short one page or a post copy or anything, like,
Hmm.
how do we set the stage of how this relates, and to kind of give a little bit of background, even if it's one or two sentences, to, the overall picture of either your service or value, or the background of the hero, in this case, Little Red Riding Hood, right?
Hmm. Exactly. Yep. That's a really good point. Yeah, and in this one, so in the classic story of Little Riding Hood context, we're thinking would be, the little girl and her mom live in the little village, and they hear that Granny's sick in the woods. Granny lives a long way away, and it's kind of a far walk. So the very beginning, introducing that character is Granny's sick. So Little Red Riding Hood is, well, first right here, she's just living in her little world, and everything is good. Nothing has changed.
All right. So we'll move out. And so it started with context, right? And then we're going to move
Right.
down the path a little bit, and we're going to move
Hmm.
into, what's our next one?
The next one is catalyst.
All
So yeah,
right.
we start with context and then we go to catalyst. And this is something like it says, something has changed. Our little Red Riding Hood character's world is no longer everything's beautiful. Something has changed. It might not be drastically bad, but something has changed. And that is Granny is sick. And her mom says, Little Red Riding Hood, Granny's sick. Would you take her some wine? Andrew and I, we love that. Take her some wine and cake, and that'll help her feel better.
Yeah, and I think this starts to introduce a little bit more of what's next, but I think it starts to introduce the thought of that, there is a little work to get there, maybe,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that change. I think this is probably one of the most important starts of um, anything, is that we all don't really enjoy change, or, change is
Right.
inevitable, and um, that a lot of times there's a little resistance to moving forward, and embracing whatever that change means, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think as humans, we kind of like things to just stay the same. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
But now
And
something does change, and you need to.
you have any other thoughts on how this is done in, you're definitely have
Mhm.
much more experience in writing, and again, we were talking about this earlier, like when you write, these amazing things come out, and sometimes it might be a little harder to explain to people like myself who aren't as experienced in writing. But what would be a thought here of, um, you know, what how you build this catalyst a little bit into your, how do you
Mhm.
build that into your writing or into.
Right, right. I would take a look at the hero is your customer, ideally, and something in their world is it's a struggle or it's a challenge or something, and address that. So that's the catalyst. Like, how is something for your customer something you can help or a struggle they're having, and then you can address that through this story. That's one way to look at catalyst.
Yeah. And I thought that actually is interesting that you talk about, that change. And I think maybe the catalyst too could be that something's changing you as well, and that
Mhm.
they're wanting now
Yes.
to have a transformational journey, and they don't know how to get there, or maybe they do, but
Mhm.
like, I want to, you want to get more healthy in fitness, or you want to become more centered and spiritual, or
Yes.
whatever that your
Mhm.
goals are, and that change could be that you're wanting, and that your body and your ideas are starting to get there. And I know a lot of the hero's journey is they're growing, or they're becoming, grown men
Mhm.
and women or whatever, and that
Mhm.
and that change as well, right? It's not just
Yeah.
something that changes in the world, which I think is both, but if you see a lot, I
Yes.
think there's double change in there a little bit.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's a super good point, Andrew. Internal change as well. Yeah. Yeah.
right. So just so for my help, context. We went from context to catalyst.
Mhm.
So we set the background. Something changes, and then what's next, Cara?
Complication.
All right.
Complication. So yeah, we've set the stage, we've introduced something changing, and now our hero needs to face that obstacle, and they have a choice. They're going to go this path or this path. They might even stay in the middle path and not move, but there's a choice now. Something has happened, and they're going to make a choice of how to face that obstacle.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting one as well. Of course, in this case, um, you know, we introduced the wolf here, but um,
Mhm.
I know a lot of times something changes, and there, some type of something that comes up. And I know in movies or in TV shows or in
Mhm.
stories and things like, um, I don't know about you, but when I read these stories, I read these things, and you always like, are almost, it's almost like a scary movie where
Yeah.
um, the there's a person in the house or something, and you're yelling at
Right.
the screen, and like,
Don't
there's a
do
person in the house, there's a person in the house, right?
it.
And
Exactly.
so you want them to do
Mhm.
something about do something about that. You're like, do
Yeah.
something, like
Uh-huh.
call the police, or run away, or
Right. Do
grab a
something.
something to help protect yourself. Like, and so this is where the obstacle, and you have that choice of what now.
Right.
Now something is in front of you, and now you have to do that. And
Mhm.
now the interesting thing here, Cara, is like,
Mm.
do we then how do we then kind of start prepping in writing or in our stories through media or content, kind
Mhm.
of sharing what that choice is, or sharing to share that there might be a choice ahead.
Right. Mhm. Oh, that's so true, Andrew. Yeah. And I also kind of look at this as a pain point. Like, there's been change. Now what? What is this thing that we want to resolve in some way, usually positively. And what path we're going to take. And that shares a lot about the character's character, actually. And like you said, Andrew, and for everybody, once you start knowing the 5 C's of storytelling and that structure, every time you read a book now and see a movie, you're going to be looking for that structure and go, there it is. And you're going to be waiting for that complication. Like, I know it's coming. Where is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and we were also talking, when we're sharing building memberships as well, and we talked about memberships and what is the point of a membership in the meta context of why are you joining something, whether it's entertainment or training or support, lots of different types, right? And so ultimately we talked about that transformational journey, and they're wanting to get from point A to point B, and I want to become a better, better at doing something or playing tennis or whatever. Like, so how do you get from knowing nothing to becoming a tennis player, or knowing nothing to becoming a business person or a digital marketer or whatever? And so how do you make that step? You don't just go from point A to point B. There's a step process, right? And so, ultimately, this is kind of, in my thought, maybe where you introduce where, hey, there's a change, you want to do something, and now you make that choice. Do you want to go down the hard path, or do you want to kind of go down the easy path? And now let's envision our lives if we go this way, or envision our lives if we go this way. And then we can envision, if we go this way, go towards grandma's house in this case, right?
Right.
And if we go that, and there's some scary stuff out there, you see the wolf right there. And so when we do that, like, what will that choice give us? And that's where we go on to move on to this, into this story here, right? Would you agree there or think there? I'm just processing this too myself. I really enjoy this topic. So
that's absolutely right. Yes. Yeah.
Do you see that? Do you see the kind of connection to the memberships and?
Oh, for sure.
All of that?
Absolutely, Andrew. Yes. Yes. I mean, a good membership follows a transformational journey, and it follows the same thing. Like, say it's a fitness membership. Somebody at the beginning, the context is they maybe want to be healthier or overcome something or have a goal, that kind of thing. They have some sort of backstory, like where they are now. Something changes, like they decide, like, I don't feel like, I'll give a personal example. I was traveling a few months ago and noticed that I've lost some muscle, because that just happens more days we spend on the earth. And like lifting my luggage to get into the bus to go to the rental station was like, the rental car station was like, wow, that's interesting. So therefore I need to do more squats and more weightlifting and stuff. So that was probably my catalyst. Like, I need to get stronger. So I got to that part. And then complication is like, now I have a choice. Like
it's
you
not
just
easy.
said.
Yeah. You got
Like,
to set those time again. And real quick fun thing, and I think the more we relate this to our real life world and all that kind of stuff is, Kara and I also do martial arts, and this morning, every Sunday morning, we have a class on the beach and we train, and we have other people we train with, and then had a new student today. So if you think about the new student, it's a scary thing. Martial arts is scary. A new group of people is scary. You got a new location, scary. And then this person said, hey, I want to get more healthy, and I also am interested in martial arts. That's, that kind of that change in themselves. And then they say, okay, the complication to a degree is I got to make it out to the beach. I got to figure out what clothes to wear, and is easier. It's always easier to stay on the couch, right? And say, okay, I really want to do that, but it's a big jump to make it. But this person made it.
Yeah.
They actually walked down like a half a mile on the beach and came to class, and they went through the whole class. And I thought that was, that's the next steps. But definitely, I think the complication is life's not easy, and we definitely want to do that. So how do we build that into our build this path into this? It's really interesting, exciting how to do this.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point.
Yeah. And great thing about the suitcase and the ideas there. So so we started with context. We're setting the context of the path. We're setting the
Uh-huh.
catalyst, like you talked about.
Right.
We have the complication. What's next?
Next is change.
Okay.
Next is change. So that's like the transformation. So in Little Red Riding Hood, um, context, backstory, her life is all good in the village. Catalyst is grandma's sick. She needs to take some food to grandma. Complication is she meets the wolf in the woods, who's very wily and figures out where she's going and races ahead. So the change, she gets to grandma's house. The wolf's already eaten grandma. It's a very strange story because she's alive in his tummy, but that's okay. And so the change is she gets to the house and now she confronts the wolf. Like, you can't eat my grandma. That's not okay. So change the hero's path. Now they have a plan to overcome this obstacle, in this case, the wolf. So what do you think about business wise, Andrew?
Yeah, and I would think about this, let's say digital marketing, like, or, the things that we're talking about, like, for example, we work with a lot of businesses, and, being in that uncomfortable, comfortable of sharing your stories and getting out in front of your key people
Mm-hmm.
who
Right.
you want to be customers, and the customers that are interested in your value proposition. So when you do that, and let's say we're starting an email newsletter, or we're starting something, like, I think that you want to start that newsletter, you go in there and you say, okay, I can start it,
Mm-hmm.
or I can do it this way, I can do it the easy way, the hard way. There's lots of different ways to do it. Like, ultimately doing it's the most important thing, right? But
Uh-huh.
now this is like, okay, we're going to do it and fight through that, and it's not easy, and you hit problems, or you go on YouTube and find people like Cara and I, and you find videos of things that are people
Mm-hmm.
that you're helping, and then you actually go do it and you go ask for help. That's, to me, in a business sense, we
Yeah.
all hit problems, and there's lots of different ways to deal with those problems. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is kind of that head-on understanding that if you chose that path before, which we talked a few minutes ago, right? This
Mm-hmm.
one right here,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
complication, right?
Right.
Um, then once you get there and you take that road, you take that side road, say you want to get healthier, and you start to work out every day, and you start to take walks, and this is, to me,
Mm-hmm.
following through with, X number of things that you say you're going to do in your
Yeah.
email newsletters and your things like that. That's my thought of, this is the change of, like, this
Mm-hmm.
is doing it, and following through with your original commitment to yourself,
Yeah.
and to, um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
what's your thought
Yeah.
on change here,
I
or
think
the,
that's exactly. I would agree with that exactly, Andrew. That's you reach this point and now the path is clear and you know what you need to be doing. So it's now the action step of like exercise, just doing it consistently, coming back with martial arts. Like you say, Andrew Sensei, yeah, the secret to learning our martial art is getting through the door and bowing in. I mean, it's not secret. It's practice. It's repetition. It's consistency. So yeah, I think you get to the change point, the transformation point, and you know what the obstacle is, and now you have a plan and a path to get there. And I think you're absolutely
yeah.
right, Andrew. It becomes that it can be challenging, and I certainly do the same thing. Like staying in the comfort zone is a lot more comfortable, and it takes a really concerted effort to do something out of the norm, whatever that is.
Right. And I think we always realize, like, I always am surprised sometimes, let's say martial arts or whatever as
Mhm.
well, but or I surprise even newsletters and other things, like, you've gotten through these four stages already, and you get to the fight part, or
Yeah,
the
like,
part
whoa.
where, when I say fight in the martial arts side, is you get to class and you get through a whole class. And then at the end of class, you realize you're stronger, you have more balance, you
Mhm,
have worked through the issues, you realize that there's no real monsters there. We're all here to help and support each
mhm,
other. And you afterwards, you're a little sore. We always say, sore is good, if it's a good
mhm.
sore.
Yeah.
And then you drink water and you come and you're ready. And then you realize that that's not as big, scary. It's not. It's
Yeah.
in your case, right? Like you pull this
Mhm.
thing back up. It's not the
Right,
scary monster anymore. It's real. The
right.
monster is really not. It. You think it might be there, man. Maybe it is, and maybe those
Yeah.
monsters are really there, and those are really big challenges. But at the end of the day, when you realize if you just keep focusing on your things and work through it, as long as you're assessing and all that other stuff, definitely you can get to this last stage. I think is where
Mhm.
where we want to get to, and we're going to talk about
Yeah.
that in a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
change. This is an
Yeah.
important part. Why there's so many important steps here.
Yeah, and they really are, and they all really link together. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So let's see. We set the context.
Yeah.
The catalyst, something happened, and change is inevitable, and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
a change happens, and the complication, and we got to face it, and then we got to face once we decide that path, right? You talked about, Gara. Then
Mhm.
we
Right.
decide to go down that road on the complication side, and now
Right.
um, we faced the 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 dragon, or we faced the thing, and
Mhm.
now we get to the side here.
Yeah. The last one is
Consequence.
consequence is the last one. So that's really in the classical hero's journey, and all the movies and novels you see at the end, the hero, the main character, has changed in some ways, like having gone through that whole journey, faced the dragon, faced the wolf, making that decision to face it, kept going. At the end, something has to change. We can't go through that kind of transformation and not be changed at the end. So at the end, hopefully we're stronger. We have learned something. We apply a different idea to our business, or like with the newsletter analogy. I love that, Andrew, because if you haven't done a newsletter yet, that first one's like, ooh, it's a big deal. And then you do it and like, wow, okay, I can see the power and the opportunity. And then you just keep doing that.
Hmm.
So it's all about that. What happens next? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the payoff. This is the
Yes.
the one, not only the payoff, but I think when we come to this, especially as marketers, right,
Mhm.
or we're providing value to people and we're sharing what that value is. I think about this in the sense of like, one, this is what we are sharing, what ultimately your value
Mhm.
proposition is going to get people, right?
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
so it's not a widget. It's not you're giving them a widget.
No.
It's you're giving them the results of what's going to come from the
Yeah.
value that you're providing them. And I think
Mhm.
Kara talks about this all the time, and it's a great insight of that. Um, we're not selling the nail that you hit into the wall, um, and we're not selling the picture that you hang on the nail, but we're selling why would I put a picture on the wall? Because it and elicits emotion, it gives you good thoughts,
Mhm.
stress relief,
Right.
excitement, energy. Why do you put a poster on the wall? Like, we're selling that, or not selling it, we're providing value in our businesses and our
Mhm.
things. And this is
Yeah.
ultimately, if we can tap into this consequence and
Mhm.
understand really what that transformational journey gives you, then truly um, is an amazing way to share what you do. And I think that resonates with
Mhm.
people, and people
Yeah.
are much more happy to provide and benefit businesses, or give people your money and share value
Mhm.
for value for this transformational aspect, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And I really think, not think, I believe with all of my heart that this structure can be for any business. It can be for, like, my family has an auto business in Colorado that my dad started in 1953. I mean, and they've got third generation people coming back because the story, it is that the backstory of the family business. Um, and then the hero journey, like the customer, they have a car. They want it to be fixed by a reputable place. They trust it. It's change, but it's a new place, and they have to build that trust. And then they decide to become customers, and then the consequence is that they have a lifetime place to come get their car fixed that they trust. So it's not a great analogy, but any business, a restaurant, your customers are going to have that same, and it really is like a trust building flow
Yeah.
as well.
Can add something to your
Yeah,
appearance.
absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
store of it. I think another thought of that is that they're selling they're selling the comfort level that when they drive their car
Mhm.
and they're putting their family in a car and
Yes.
putting them in a moving vehicle that's 65 miles per hour on the road, and they're
Mhm.
putting their value and their trust into you, that
Yeah.
they feel confident in that you've put your full energy and great skills,
Mhm.
experience, and
Yeah.
time to make sure that their car is working, and also that trust value of that they can
Yeah.
relax, that they know that you've treated them fairly and that you're providing value for
Mhm.
value, and that they're not trying to. That's
Yeah.
all we all want, right?
That's
Like, that
exactly it.
you're getting value and you're happy to provide that value, especially for people have the experience and
Mhm.
trust to give you that. It could be food, like you said, or wine, or
Mhm.
uh, and so yeah, I really like that example, Cara. If the thing
Thanks.
is that it's almost the the sleep at night feeling as well, especially for those
Yes.
kind of services, right?
Yes. Mhm. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
All
Yeah,
right,
and
that's a big one, right? Go ahead, Cara.
it's huge. I was just gonna do a quick little recap too of, we have a luxury boutique B&B client, and one of the biggest ways we used storytelling with them was when COVID started. So, beautiful place, amazing people, great service. They just do it well. They just do it very well. So of course, COVID started. They couldn't have people in, and they told the story. We helped them tell that story of, here we are. We're used to having you beautiful guests. We can't have you. This is sad. But then, so this is how we're dealing with it. And then when things opened up a little bit, then we shared the story of, this is what we're doing. Here's our protocols. It's a very safe space. You're welcome back. And the consequence was that they already had very loyal repeat customers, but that honesty and that story of how they were dealing with things and how they were protecting their clients and customers and how heartfelt they were about it, it really just deepened those relationships with existing customers and also found some new ones. So that was a perfect example of storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, and these are all great examples in a positive way too. And I think
Hmm.
also that we all face challenges in the sense of,
I do.
if there are some non-positive things that happen, and by that I mean that
Hmm.
we all can make mistakes too, and businesses can make
Yeah.
mistakes too, and could be when you're following through on reviews or negative reviews, or you're following through with an issue of when something happened in your business or an
Hmm.
employee, and whether however you decide to do that. I think that's the key to, you know you can call the word crisis, but crisis management is that
Hmm. Yeah.
you share, that you acknowledge the circumstances, you acknowledge what you learned and what you're doing about it, and that this is the value providing and how you're going
Hmm.
to fix it, and that build that trust from
Yeah.
there. So it doesn't always have to be a
Exactly.
perfect outcome, but it also can be from negative point of view. That personally, when I say reviews, I definitely um, appreciate, even if there's a lot of low scores, if I appreciate if the owner deals with it in a tactful way and shares that
Hmm.
either there's a miscommunication, or that they're dealing with it and they're going to make it right. I
Right.
definitely, you know, seen that go both ways. People not
Hmm.
doing it tactfully, and that can look bad, or just ignoring it. That's the three monkeys that do the
Right.
don't like
Right.
it done. And then the people that respond back and say, "Here's," or "Hey, this is miscommunication. I think maybe you have some unrealistic expectations. So I think all three of those really help. And like Kara said, sharing you in an authentic way is part of that storytelling.
Yeah.
And then I think the consequences are us as business people, that people want to work with people they trust and value, and then they know that they're going to follow through on what they say, do what they say what they do, and then also provide value in what they're looking for as well. You got to be able to do that as well. So.
Yeah. So
that's a long-winded way of saying
So
consequences are important, both sides, right?
Exactly. The outcome. That was beautifully said. Beautifully. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe can we talk to a little bit about consequences? And this is also this is the payoff of the hero's journey, and also the memberships as well. Like ultimately, if you follow through with this and you complete and you follow the path that we share with you, and you truly do, like Kara said, in martial arts, the most important thing is going to the dojo, right? Getting into this class,
right?
Doing class. You may not be perfect, but if you go to class and you do your work, you will have transformation. You'll feel better balance.
Yeah.
You have health defense, and you'll be better for it, whatever that is. So
Yes.
that's really the payoff, and in the movies, the worst movies are the ones that don't wrap that tiny bow in there. Like,
So true.
when I say worst, but I'm like, where's the end? Like you didn't give us I like the cheap big bow at the end, but personally,
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
Or
And
if they
I
wrap
think,
a bad bow in and they do it in a nice way, then it's like, I don't like that, but okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Right.
part of it, I
And
guess.
that's so true, Andrew. In storytelling, like in novels and movies, the ending doesn't have to be positive. It could be a really sad ending, but it still is that resolution and how the character changed. It could be tragic, but the character changed at the end. Yeah. But I prefer the happy ones. I do.
Yeah, and you mentioned something really interesting, and working with different businesses too. Things happen as well, and tragic as well, and not going into any specifics, but there's things that happen, and I think when a business shows compassion and shows that they care for their employees and their community, like that goes. We have some clients that just do that and have done it in a really nice timingful way, and just the community just really appreciates that. So like I said, positive or negative, you can deal with it and use the storytelling in your both daily sales and selling projects and ideas and things that are going through, but also dealing with public releases and crises, and also
Right.
hey,
Absolutely.
sharing your wins, right? We all have wins, and share it in a way. Use these tools right here to share your wins as well, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
All
So
right. So what's the
hope
5 stages again, Kara?
they are context, the
Okay.
backstory, introduction to the hero's world. Catalyst is the second one. And that is the event, like what happens, something changes in the hero's world.
Okay.
And the third one is complication, and that's the obstacle. Here in our story, it's the wolf meeting the wolf. A problem and a choice are faced by the hero, and what are they going to do? The fourth one is change, and that's the transformation. So the hero decides on a path and a plan to overcome the obstacle.
Okay.
And the last one is consequence. And that's the resolution. Like, I love that, the bow analogy, Andrew, like tying it all up with a bow and the resolution. So the character, fate, world, and worldview of the character has now changed. And how does that look? And what are they going to take going forward?
And that's really what, if you start with that and who your hero is. And we talked about that last week in our business model, as we start with the customer, and then we go to our value proposition. And we go to our value proposition is not what we're selling.
Right.
It's the consequence of what we're selling, or the transformation.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So if you go to here's what you will feel, be able to do, and afterwards how you change is that. So such a strong model. Thank you for sharing this, Kara. This is
You're
great.
welcome. This is so fun.
There's something in the corner. What's that fun saying right there?
That says, and then what happens? And we'll attribute this really quickly. I want to say that like Andrew said at the beginning, there's a lot of examples of the 5 C's or the hero's journey. This one is from, I've taken a class from Bernadette Jiwa. She's amazing. And these are some of the terminology she uses, but many writing teachers and people use this structure, but just wanted to give her some kudos. But then, and then what happens? Do you want to share who said that, Andrew?
That's funny. I like just read it up. My
Then
mind
what
went blank.
happens?
What was that? Who
Oh,
said?
Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. And I remember we were watching a thing on Masterclass recently, and he was talking about, and he talks about like we always want to introduce the next part of the story, and then what happens, and then what happens, and really that's a great statement. Like, oh, really? Like
next.
that's just such an amazing thing. And so we'll click on that, see what happens here.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
yay, we got our end. Unfortunately, our end for now, but start for future. And I would say let's start the journey, right? And Cara and I do this full time for a company called Blue Ascension here in San Luis Obispo, California. And
so we'd love to tell your story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this little QR code, you can always scan it just for fun. It takes you to our website. If you don't believe us, you can try it.
Get your camera right there and like snap it.
Yeah. And our digital transformations in these podcasts is really about how are we both sharing the widgets and the tools that we're trying to learn how to, as Cara said, we're sharing these tools on how to help us all learn and digest and distill marketing, and what is the true intent of marketing is to share your story, right? And Cara mentioned these tools that we can do that, and the frameworks of everything we have in our life is a story, and everything is a consequence of an action and a decision that we make. And I think we can use these to share what value we want to provide to our customers. And as we talk about, this is what we try to do on a daily basis of learning and using our own tools. And these are other thoughts to use digital media to bits and bytes. There's lots of stuff going on. So how do we pull that all together into this beautiful journey that you can take with your customers and enjoy the process, right?
Exactly.
What do you want to say to kind of wrap it up?
You did a great job, Andrew. Yes. So yeah, it's all about telling your story, sharing your story. We all have a different one to tell, and they all matter. So don't be afraid to get a little personal with your business stories, and just, share your heart with your customers, because they're really going to appreciate that. Because when we connect with emotion and real human to human kind of information, it's going to help really transform your business. So love to help share your story, and we look forward to the next episode.
All right. See you all soon.
All right.